Good evening, my children. Ladies and gentlemen, you won. You won. It's over. You've won the war. 4 years ago, when Mobile Monday started, it was slightly strange. It was weird. In fact, the only reason that it was called mobile was because it rhymed with Monday. Nobody thought mobiles were going to be anything. And now, as we've heard from previous speakers, and as we're about to hear from the two far superior men who are going to follow me, mobile is the business to be in the next 15 years. It is the future. It is also, as you know, the present. And in those 4 years of Mobile Monday, we have seen massive changes. It must feel like a lifetime for you. It certainly does for me. We all work in an industry which is, at the very longest, even if the people in this room were working on the first internet bubble, we work in an industry which is about 600 weekends old. It's very, very young. But we have seen in those 600 weekends massive amounts of social change. Enormous social change. And with that social change, we have seen huge confusion. A quick survey. How many people here have been able to successfully explain their job to their parents? Yeah, like 2 of you, right? Yeah. What I'm going to talk about today is the fact that this might be the core problem that faces everybody in this room. Because the business that we work in, the themes, the ideas that are coming through from the technologies that we work with every day are changing the world in a way which will change humanity forever. And it's the people in this room and the people watching on the internet, hello internet, who are in charge of these new technologies, who are producing the future that we all have to live in. And if you look around you, you'll notice that nobody here is a politician. Indeed. The big man. Nobody here is a politician. Nobody here is a member of the business elites. Very few of us here were at the EG8, or certainly at the G8. There are maybe a couple of billionaires in the room, but they don't like to talk about it. But pretty much nobody here is in the big elites. And that's because we're all too young. The elites of the world are in their 50s and 60s and 70s. And they've always been like that. But this, for the first time ever, is causing a huge problem. Because if you were a member of the political or social or economic or business elites of today, if you were in your 50s and 60s, then that meant you did all of your thinking, all of your ideas, all of your mental development before 1989. Before 1989, the world was very, very simple, right? It was very easy. There was us and there was them. There was the goodies and the baddies. There were some other countries down south, but we didn't really pay any attention to that. And there were, China, who cares? There was us and there was Russia. We were the good guys, they were the bad guys, they were our enemy. They looked pretty much the same as us, and we knew where they were. If we wanted to send them a Christmas card, we knew the address. The world was very simple. And then in 1989 and 1990, 2 things happened. First thing, the Berlin Wall falls down, 1989. And in 1990, in October, Germany is reunited. And on Christmas Day 1990, about 400 miles further south or so, Tim Berners-Lee turns on the first web server. To use a phrase which my colleagues have been using all day, at that point, shit just got real. Because we suddenly found ourselves living in a world completely different to the world a year before. Most people in this room weren't even born in 1989. But for you can tell which ones those are. They're the millionaires. But believe me, it was really confusing. And things got even more confusing as we went over the next 21 years. We had a unipolar world for a little bit. And then two things happened. The internet and 9/11. And suddenly, we went from a world which was bipolar, very simple, very easy to understand, where business was very easy to understand, to a world which was politically extraordinarily complicated, where we were fighting an enemy which wasn't a country, it didn't have an address, you couldn't send them a Christmas card, it was like a gas, like a thing, it was just like this idea floating about. And we had this thing called the internet, which was again like this strange idea, and it came walking down the street very slowly, and every time it saw an industry, it went, the travel industry, I shall destroy it. The newspaper industry, the Godzilla of the internet destroyed every industry it touched. So whilst all you guys were in high school, the people who are now in charge were watching everything they knew about the world being destroyed completely. Physically, intellectually, philosophically, and economically. This is a bad thing for many people. It's also a very joyful thing for other people because it produces whole new possibilities. In the vacuum, in the mess that has been made by the internet and the changing geopolitical structure of the world, everybody has a new opportunity. I haven't had a job in the past 10 years, which if I got into a time machine and went 10 years before that, I could explain to anybody without sounding insane. Nobody here has. Imagine it, right? Imagine if you right now got into a time machine and went back 15 years or so and tried to explain to yourself what it is you do. Yeah, so I have this like black piece of glass in my pocket, and I point it at buildings, and I see a picture of the building, but with a giant thing drawn on it, and that's made by people using computers on the other side of the world. You stop running away. Nobody would get it. But we have these huge opportunities. We have this new possibility space. As was said earlier, I was a war correspondent for many years. And when I started my journalistic career, I started working for the Times newspaper, which was a broadsheet newspaper, the very famous newspaper in London. Very old, very traditional. And the traditional way, the only way really of getting into the Times was you would start as a trainee reporter on a very small newspaper in your hometown, and you would spend maybe 20 years reporting on schools or, women's knitting clubs or something. And then maybe you might get the chance to write something for a national paper. And then eventually, after 50 years of bleeding through your eyes, you would be given a job. Very traditional, very hierarchical. Then the internet came along and they needed somebody to write about it, and the only person in the room who knew what a computer was me, so they gave me the job. But I didn't want to be a technology reporter, I wanted to be a war correspondent. So I went to a friend of mine who was a very famous war correspondent at the time, and I said to her, "Tell me the secret. Tell me the secret of being a war correspondent. How do I do it?" And she said, "It's very simple. But you must promise never to tell anybody the secret." Do you want to know the secret? Lean forward. If you want to be a war correspondent, you have to go to a war and correspond. Now, what she meant by this was that nobody was ever going to ask you. The hierarchies were starting to break down. The internet meant that if you wanted to be a war correspondent, you could just go to a war and correspond. And 10, 12, 15 years ago, that was a radical thought. But now, it's really obvious. We have a whole generation of people, maybe 2 generations of people now, who have never had to ask permission to publish anything. We've heard already today Mark Zuckerberg being cited, somebody who formed a company that's gone from nothing to 800 million users in how many years? 7 years? The remarkable thing about that isn't the fact that he did it. The remarkable thing about that for most people is that he didn't have to ask anybody's permission. This is an incredibly radical thing. And it's especially an incredibly radical thing for people who are running the world right now, because they are thoroughly confused by this. What we're seeing is the victory of networks, like you guys. Networks of people who know each other and have similar ideas, beating hierarchies, beating countries, beating old-fashioned corporations. The small startup that you could form this evening over drinks with a few like-minded people could be taking down major corporations by the end of the month, because the networks are stronger than the hierarchies. And for people in power, this is a huge problem, because they genuinely don't understand it. They grew up during a time when a hierarchy was the most important thing, and it's not how the world works anymore. For many countries, we have entrusted our future with people who don't completely understand our present. Because of this, nation-states themselves are threatened. Because what we're finding is that we, the young, technologically aware, multiply connected people, you guys in the room, those guys up on stage, have stronger bonds with each other than we do necessarily with the countries we live in. You guys, and I've met maybe 5 of you, 10 of you before in my life. The rest of you, I have no idea who you are, but I can guarantee you I have more in common with you people than I do with my neighbor in London. And I'm sure that you all have more in common with people who live in certain parts of New York or San Francisco or Portland or Barcelona or Berlin or Copenhagen or Stockholm than you do with people who live 10 miles down the road. You probably deal with them more every day, you communicate with them more, you share more culture with them, you do more business with them. We are creating networks which are stronger than nations. These networks of ideas, these mimetic diasporas, we've already seen. Whether we're talking about the mobile developer community or Al-Qaeda. Al-Qaeda is really a Facebook page with a weapons budget. This is a problem. It's also incredibly exciting. Because what we find is when we identify the things that we know, we can come together and do cool stuff. I'm going to try something now. I've never done this before, and it might not work. Let's give it a go. I'm going to split the room down the middle. Okay, everybody on this side of the room, pay attention. Okay, you people, I'm going to call people on the right, even though you're on my left. See what I mean? People on the right? Yes? Say hi. Cool, very good. People on the left? Hi. Okay, now, what we're going to do in a minute, I'm going to do something with these guys, right? I want you guys on the left not to do anything, right? Hold yourself back until I give you the signal. And when I give you the signal, do what you think you should do. To everybody watching on the internet, this isn't a good idea, is it? No. Okay. People on this side. Hi. Okay, can you stomp your foot? Just do this. Right, we're going to try to do it together. Right, 1, 2, 3. Right. Brilliant. We're going to do it in a rhythm. You're going to go with me on this. Ready? Right. Don't do anything. Hold yourself. Ready? Now, it's going to go like this. Keep going. Don't speed up. Slow down. Now, when I say go, and we've never met, slow down. Oh, yeah. Slow down. Slow. When I say go, do what you want to do. And go. Big man, someday you got mud on your face, big disgrace, kicking your can all over the place. Sing it! We will rock it. Oh yes! Give yourself a round of applause. Now, we almost got away with it. Instantly, a group of people, most of whom haven't met each other. I'm sure you haven't sung together. Some of you may have slept together, but we don't want to talk about it. But a group of people share a culture and are able to reach out and form a group and do something with it. Now, that thing may well be particularly silly. But the internet enables us to do this every single day. Not quite as fast as these guys. They're very keen. Now, every generation threatens the generation before. It's the way of things. It's the way it's meant to be. You can have a lot of fun looking back through history at different dances. The waltz, for example. If you look at the newspaper reports of when the waltz was first invented, it was considered to be the most obscene thing ever. Positively, sexually, oh my God. Completely awful, beyond the pale. If you caught your daughter dancing the waltz with somebody, you would have to have her shot. It would be terrible. When Elvis first went on television, he was photographed from the waist upwards, from here upwards, because they couldn't show his hips, because it would make women pregnant just by watching. Every generation threatens the generation before it. And every new technology replaces the old technologies. This is inevitable. But we have a new thing now. We have a technology which begets the next technology. We have the new technology which enables you to make the new thing even better than the one before. You couldn't use a car to make a better car, or a sword to make a sharper sword. You could use 2 horses to make a better horse, but that kind of, that ran out after a while. But information technology, communications technologies, enable us to make better communications technologies. And they enable us to make a better world. It enables people like you to get together and do better stuff every day. And so, yes, 4 years after Mobile Monday started, you have won. You have these fantastic apps, these amazing pieces of technology, these whole new concepts, these ways of dealing with people, with ideas, with populations, with social interaction that we've never been able to do before. The world has changed completely because of the things that people in this room have done. Congratulations. But we have a responsibility. The responsibility is that, as sad as it is to realize it, we're the grown-ups now. 4 years ago, we could go on about being innovative and cool and, you know, disruptive and yay. And we're just going to fuck it up. Woo! The thing is, we're in charge now. When you look around at the people who think they're in charge, they really don't know how the world works anymore. And we're the next people down on the list. So when you go from here, have yourself a beer, go out into the glorious sunshine, on a one sunny day in Amsterdam, maybe my new hometown. Remember what you've felt and what you've learned at Mobile Monday, and then forget it all. Because we've got a lot of work to do. Good luck, everybody.
Then I found his shoes. Okay, we have time for one quick question. Here are your shoes. We have time for one. Oh yeah, of course. There he comes, eh? The question. He's the guy of the.
Oh my word!
Whoa, that will be exciting.
Hi Ben, I'm Steven. Wouldn't you say that because, of course, I go along with this. You know, the internet is fantastic and it's a new era and all that stuff. But couldn't you also make the case that at this point in time, what the internet has mostly done in mainstream culture is put like the afterburners on consumer society? When and how will we see the actual transition from a consumer society to a participant society?
Yeah! Great question.
Okay, hands up here who thought that was a good question.
Yeah, everyone, of course.
Okay, cool.
Ben didn't like
See
it.
that guy afterwards? Everybody who thought that was a good question, yeah. I agree, but think everybody who thought it was a good question, everybody meet up at this corner after you've had a beer, work it out. I don't bloody know, it's your job.
Thank you.